Hi everyone, I want to show you my beautiful new Spek. This is an A5 in that leather that I can't pronounce, Cuoio. When I say it in my head I always think Cuoio or something like that, I can never pronounce it. It's quite similar to the Janet leather. I think it's 6208 is the code, and on the inside it's Viola, which I can't remember the code, but it's not the Napa leather, it's the other one. So I'll show you it properly in a minute. I bought it from Natasha in Australia and it's so beautiful. I'm going to use it for my university binder. I'm going back to uni in September to do a master's in museum studies so that I can become a curator, specifically a curator in Egyptology, hopefully, in the future. So I'm preparing for that and I'm doing a lot of preparatory work and stuff like that, so I'll tell you a bit about that as I'm flicking through. I haven't finished setting it up yet because it's a work in progress. So I'll show you the binder first. So as I said, it's that Cuoio leather, however you say it. It's A5 size, it's got 35mm rings, and it's absolutely beautiful. I was quite surprised by the leather because I've got one of the samples of Cuoio, however you say it, and the leather in the sample is different from this leather, so I thought it would be a lot more pebbly, but it's very smooth, and I'm glad it's smooth because I prefer smoother leathers. If I have leathers, they either need to be really textured, like my pink ostrich, or they need to be smooth. I don't really like pebbly. Just thinking whether I have anything, you know, like the Finchley leather, that sort of leather. I don't like that pebble. It's just not attractive to me. So I'm glad it's very smooth, it's beautiful. And I thought it would be quite a hard leather, quite tough, so when you touch it, it feels very hard, like this does. It doesn't squish at all. This is against the spine, but I don't know if it's part of the stiffener or something they just use as another element of the binder, but the leather on the front, the back and this part of the clasp is very cushioned, it's very squishy. So it's kind of like sitting in a nice leather armchair and sinking your arm onto the arm of the chair, and it's that squishiness, which I'm not sure if that means that it's going to hold up better or worse than one of the, you know, sort of harder leather binders. So for example, my I'm just going to go get it, 1 second. Here we go. My De Villiers binder is that sort of hard leather, whereas this one is very squishable. This one isn't at all, and it's very hard. So I don't know if that means that it's more liable to get dented or less liable, because I'm guessing if you press hard into this, there's nothing to cushion any dents. This one's got scratches on it, but I don't think it's got any real obvious dents. But if somebody, the previous user who used it for years and years and years, you can see by the darkness on the spine where their hand has held it, if they'd got any dents, then I think they would probably be more obvious than if this one got dents, because if this one did, I think the squashy foamy stuff under the leather would kind of act a bit like memory foam. So although I think dents will show up, I think they'll be much less obvious, and I think that the foam will eventually make the dents raised a bit so they're not so sunken. But if it gets dents on the spine, I think they'll show up more. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to take this everywhere with me. I was planning to do that, and when you look at it you think, oh yeah, I want that to be patinaed, I want it to be beautiful, and it doesn't matter if it gets scratches. It is quite easy to stain, because even if you just hold it, the oils in your fingers do mark up. Like yesterday my dad picked it up and you can see his thumb mark there, and I was holding it around here, and on the back there were lots of finger marks, and they've nearly disappeared now. And I put it down on my laptop and it had some marks like of the keys, not dents but just like grease marks. It's weird, but they've disappeared. And I did treat it with a leather cleaner, which is supposed to clean it and protect it, keep it waterproof, which I think is the most important thing, because I know the Janet leather does stain quite a lot when you accidentally get water on it. But I don't know if I'm going to be taking this with me on a daily basis to uni, because I was planning to do so, but I think I'm going to test it out first. I'm going to put it in my handbag with things that I would normally take with me, like pencil case, phone, keys, but my keys will always be in a protected section, and see if it gets any marks. And if it does, then I'll think about whether I want to take something that's a bit more sort of hardy. I've got this folder from Staples which is plastic, and although it's only 2 rings, I could punch all my inserts to fit on here as well as in the binder and just transfer it every day. Transfer the contents, although that would take some time and be a bit annoying after a while. But if it doesn't show up any dents, I think I will take it with me on a daily basis. Okay, I've spoken too much. I'm going to open it up so you can see on the inside. Forgetting the inserts for a second, let's look at the layout. It has got 2 pen loops. Normally they only come with 1 pen loop on this side, but this one's got 2 pen loops, which is great because I'm going to be able to fit a pencil in here at the same time. And it's got the normal configuration of pockets, but I think actually it's slightly customised. I've not asked Natasha, but I did ask the same when I got my A5 binder, my A5 in the fuchsia. You can see it's the same purple colour on the inside, that this pocket here isn't stitched. I think it's normal that it's stitched down the middle. So you have all of these credit card pockets here with this line of stitching down the middle, and then this pocket is like a big one with no stitching down the middle there, and then I think this one is supposed to be stitched down the middle there. Well, I prefer it like the way this one is, so I'm really glad that Natasha asked for that, and it didn't cost me any extra when I got mine customised, because I had the secretarial pocket in the back of my ostrich pink one, but I don't mind that this one doesn't have a secretarial pocket. I love that it has 2 pen loops, and I love that it doesn't have the stitching down here, and I love the fact that it's purple as well, because even though it's the same as my other Van der Spek, purple is my sort of go-to colour. Purple and brown are very neutral for me. Brown is very Indiana Jones type. That is the colour of all of my work binders. So I've got my Oakham, my De Villiers, this one, and then I've also got my A5 Kendall, but that's a darker brown, but they're nearly all this tan brown, which is my sort of archaeology professor Indiana Jones type colour. That's the idea I get in my head when I think about my subject. But purple, when I can't think of a colour to pick, I pick purple because it's quite neutral for me. I love pink, I love turquoise, but to me they have specific uses. Pink is my fun colour, turquoise is quite a summery colour, but it's not what I would pick in winter because it's too cold. Purple is my default go-to colour if I can't think of another colour, so it's perfect. And because it's neutral, I can use it for work or play, so I have got it in both of my binders. Even though I didn't customise this one myself, I'm glad of the colours that it is because they're perfect. So I'll quickly go through the setup. Oh, firstly, this zip here is brown. It goes with the colours. The stitching's brown, the zip is brown, and this tag is brown. So it's such attention to detail is great. So I haven't set it up completely, and I think I'm running out of time, so I will have to do this quickly. First up, I have my A5 Dodo pad I have got up until September in it at the moment, because when I get to uni I'm going to be putting the whole of the forthcoming year in it. And I am doing a MOOC at the moment, a massive online open course for museum studies, which has been made by the university that I'm going to, the Leicester Museum Studies Department, and is focusing on Liverpool museums, which is great because I did my first 2 degrees in Liverpool, so it's kind of perfect. And this is how I was using it. I wrote down the that week's subject of the MOOC on the left, but some of the pages, they don't have much room to write things down on, so I decided that for example there, I would just write the rest on a separate piece of paper like that and just washi tape it in, or put holes in and slip it onto the rings. And then I started doing working out what to do each day. Then my computer died on the Thursday, so I wasn't able to do any of this because I didn't have a computer, and so I had to play catch up that week, and then I started doing this, and now I've lost the oomph and I'm behind, and I'm still on week 2 even though it's the end of week 3 now, so it's quite frustrating, but I'm not going to stress myself out about it, so I'm just going to catch up when I can. But when I start at uni again, I will do another video on how I'm using the Dodo pad, because I used it during my 3rd year and my masters last time, and it was really brilliant. So I will do another video in sort of October time. Right, so then I've got my organisation section, which is a section I always have in my planner, and it's basically everything that will organise my life. This is everything that will organise my museum studies. I will have another section in my specific Egyptology research binders for how I'm going to organise them. So it's not necessarily a plan, it's to-do lists and stuff that organises specifically. But it's kind of a mishmash and I haven't finished setting it up. I'm starting my own shorthand to be able to take lecture notes quicker, and then I've got a little motivation section where that my 2 current motivational mantras are, at least it's not physics, and it could be worse, it could be physics, because I find museum studies, some bits of it are quite difficult, complicated, especially the more philosophical side, the theoretical side. But my colleague is doing her assistant practitioner course, and one of the modules was physics, and everybody struggled with physics except for a couple of my colleagues. So most of my colleagues were pulling their hair out, just sort of living vicariously through my other colleague, and they were all remembering the struggles they had with learning physics. And I cannot get my head around physics, and I'm so glad I'm not doing that. So if I ever struggle with museum studies, all I've got to say is, at least it's not physics. Museum studies has got to be easier than physics. So that's my little mantra. And I made this. It's the only artistic thing in here. I don't do washi tape or patterns or anything like that. I mean, I do a tiny bit of washi tape. It's always plain. It's always like these plain rolls that are just one colour. Because this isn't a fun binder. This is a work binder. And if you this video is going to go over, so I'll edit it to put the 2 bits together. If you look in an office, you will notice that there's not much pattern, but that folders and office equipment, stationery, office products are usually red, yellow, blue, green, maybe the odd purple and orange, something like that. They're very kind of primary colours, and then a few other colours. One, you know, sort of colour, no pattern. And I didn't realise that until I started working in an office, but that's the way my brain goes. When they are all one colour, they are all very plain. But I was struggling with trying to get my head around what I'm supposed to do to prepare for this course one day, and my brain just felt like somebody had just mashed it all together. They just chucked loads of information in and stirred it around, and my brain just, I could not get any thoughts straight. I was getting really, really stressed, and I just thought, right, the only thing I know that I'm supposed to be doing at the moment is reading. That's what my lecturers have told me to do. They have given us a list of suggested reading. So just read. Just seriously read. So I had this idea. I'm not very good at thinking of art journal pages, of visualising them before I start, but I did with this one. And I felt, you know, when you have, like, you imagine you move into a house and the wall is painted in a horrible colour, and you just get your cream, beige, white, whatever colour paint that you just want to just completely start with a blank canvas, and you just get your paint and you just swoosh it all over the wall, and then it dribbles down and it's just covering the horrible colour underneath, and you just think, it's just dribbling down the wall and it's covering it. I had that idea. So what I did was I made a lovely colourful mess on the page with stencils and stamps and metallic paint and sprays and all sorts, and that was the mess. That was the mess in my head. That was how my thoughts were. They were all messed up and they weren't in order and they weren't organised, and I was really stressed, and it was and then I got a piece of some scrapbook paper that has these, like, paper lines, you know, you get lined paper or grid paper. This is kind of like one of those money books, what are they called? Those ones that, like, cashiers would have used. And I cut it in the pattern of paint dripping down a wall. So it's like this organised, ordered, nice neutral thing with this organised pattern, and it's very sort of stress-free because it's very organised, and we all of us planet people like feeling organised, so lined paper is a great sort of symbol of that. Dripping down the page, covering the mess, covering the stress, and it's just eventually going to be able to dribble down and cover the whole thing, and it will be lovely and neat, and my brain will be relaxed and not stressed, and it will just have covered all the mess. So I've got some drips down there as well. I really like this, and I've just written on it, just read. So that is, if I get stressed, I just look at that, and also it's pretty. And it's the only pretty thing I've got in here, so it's nice to have something. Anyway, and then I've got essay ideas, and stuff that I really need to actually study that are outside, you know, that you take from the reading that I haven't started reading about yet, so things I need to focus on. My goals, some to-do stuff. It's not in order. I'm using OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, to do my note taking. I would love to do it all on paper, but I am not very good at being concise and being sort of organised on paper. The bonus with writing things on the computer is that you can add things to a new section, you can copy and paste, you can, you know, delete things, and on paper, if you want it to be neat, you're going to have to rewrite the whole thing if you've added something to a paragraph that you've already finished up here. So I'm having to use OneNote, and I do like OneNote. I think OneNote is like a Filofax, but on the computer. You get your tabs and your sections and your subsections, and it's very neat. And I like that it's free. You can now download it for free from the Microsoft website, and that it's in a cloud, so I never lose my notes, which is really good because as I said, my computer died and I lost everything on it. So I'm so grateful that that was free and on a cloud, so I didn't lose my notes. So these are the sections I had to start in OneNote. So then I've got the breakdown of my modules. They're not what the teachers have told us, they are what was on the module information PDF on the website. So it's just like, sort of, by the end of this module you will be able to do all these things. So I have then given them a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I see what chapters are in the books, when I work out what each chapter's about, I can say, oh, that's about number 2, that's about number 5, so I can work out what I'm reading and why it's relevant, and that I'm not just reading stuff that is going to be completely irrelevant, which is always a risk when you don't really know the subject very well. And the reason I'm learning all this stuff now and I'm teaching myself is because I really don't know much about the subject, so I really have to prepare when I get to uni. The books I've got, well, books I had, I'm going to have to re-download them now because I lost them because my computer died. And this is the reading program. They emailed us the reading list that we should, the recommended reading that we should do, and then I wrote down each chapter and each sort of introduction section and stuff, so that when I read it I can tick it off, so it just feels like I've accomplished something, although there's a hell of a lot of reading on here, and I've only read a few of them because I've been reading a couple of other books that aren't on this list, so I just tick them off when I've done them. And here's some more motivation. As I said, it's not in order, so this should go with my other ones. Stuff things not to do, stuff things to do, like don't get stressed and don't stop because you feel overwhelmed. Don't waste time by doing admin. I'm very good at that. I'll go, oh well, I'll organise all the folders in my computer, and I'll spend 3 hours doing that and then realise, oh, I should have spent 3 hours reading or writing my essay. Identify time wasting activities, save time by being organised from the start. All of my uni work, I didn't keep it in folders. I just chucked it in a pile when I was finished with it, and now I have to go back and organise it all, and that is taking forever. So if you're organised from the start, you save a lot of time later. Don't waste time just by copying. So because I don't want to spend a lot of time printing stuff, a lot of money printing stuff, because it costs money that I should be spending on food, I could spend a lot of time copying out passages, but that's a big waste of time, so I really should spend that money on printing. So if you feel like you don't know something, read. Don't do extras, stick to the set work and stuff that I should do. Anyway, glossary, so I really need to learn terms. So I'm writing down which books have glossaries in, and then I'll write them up on OneNote. And some bibliographic material. So for Egyptology, there used to be this website called Egyptos, which you type in a keyword and it gives you a load of books that, or articles or chapters that discuss that issue, that subject, that topic. And I've just found there are a couple of websites and books that do that for museum studies, so that's great when you're trying to find publications for essays. And so this is like that thing I showed you where I'd broken down the module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for example, in this book, this visits, stuff about museum visits, works out to Unit 13 and Unit 18. Oh no, ignore that. It actually was that this subject is in this part of the book, Unit 13 in the book. But what I should really go back and do now is say, oh, this is for, you know, term 3, topic 2, and go back and do it like that. There's my key. So when I underline things, because I read things on my tablet, because I like underlining them, but I don't want to do that in real books, I underline in red at first, and then that's the colour for when I've just annotated it. But when I've actually written up the notes on OneNote, I colour it in blue. And then on the contents, if I've just read it, I will tick it in red. If I've only started reading it, I will do a dash in red. If I have finished typing up the notes, I will do a blue tick. If I'm currently writing up the notes and I haven't finished, I will do a blue dash. And there's another book list and some books that I want to look at uni, and a list of journals. And then I had this idea when I was starting that I wanted to do a museum studies for dummies books, you know, like an idiot's guide to, because I really wish there was one. I wish I could just buy a book that broke everything down in layman's terms for me, because this is a brand new subject for me and I don't understand some of it, and I just wish that they would dumb it down for me. So I wanted to do my own museum studies basics section, but I'm doing that on the computer instead, but I've still got this as a divider. And so this is my notes. This green section is my notes section. Museum studies concepts and theory. This is all the theoretical side. This is the philosophical stuff I really don't like. I really don't understand. This is what I compare to physics. I just don't understand it. I'm going to have to work really hard to understand it. There's an idea I had back in 2006, a long time ago. I might do an essay on that. And there's some notes I made from a book, but as you can see I do write a lot when I'm writing notes, and this wasn't even a very long chapter in the book. I spend far too long writing up notes from books, which is why it's easier for me to just underline and annotate the book and then type it up on the computer later, because whatever happens, even if I've written all the notes here, I'm still going to have to type them up onto the computer, which is going to take me double the time, so I might as well just type them up onto the computer to start with. I have a few ideas for essays. I'm sort of preempting some of the activities they'll get us to do as part of the course. So what I'll do in this section is just write up stuff and then transfer it to the other sections in the future, when I work out where they're supposed to go. So my next section is my work section. So for example, if I've got activities to do, essays, all of this stuff, it will eventually be organised into my work section. So I'm planning to write an essay that I would like to do as my first proper essay at uni, so I will be collecting data during the summer, and so I've got a few pages on that, and then I've got the pages for my MOOC. So I've got this tab, and I use my fountain pens, which are very, very pretty colours, the ink. So there's that, and then I've got my dissertation section. I don't like the way they have suggested you do your dissertation for the course, because it's due in, normally, well, as far as I know, normally master's dissertations are due in at the end of the course, but we've got a placement during next summer, and so we've got to hand in our dissertations, instead of in September, we've got to hand them in June, which means that I've got 2 or 3 months less than I would have had to write it. So I'm going to have to prepare really early. And I actually went on the website and they said that you're only supposed to start doing the research in April, which means that you've only got April, May and June to research and write the whole thing, which I disagree with, because my lecturer said you have to do the research for my, this was for my Egyptology MA, do the research during term 2 and write it up during term 3 and the summer. And that would be 9 months. 9 months of work compared to 3 months. So I'm preparing now. I'm going to be doing as much work as possible now, and then hoping when I get there that they won't go, oh, we wouldn't have picked that subject for you, we want you to do something else. It's a bit of a risk, but it's worth it. And then at the back here I've got one of these top loading pockets, because when you close up, this happens on my other A5 as well, when you close up the binder and you just shut the front cover, it doesn't close properly because the paper gets caught behind the rings. So I've got this blue sticky out tab here that you pull, and it pulls the top loading pocket, and it means that nothing gets caught behind the rings. So you just pull the blue thing and it makes it all neat inside. This is now the third memory card I'm onto for this video. I have no idea how long it's going to be. Anyway, the last thing I'm going to say about this binder is that I wasn't sure about the rings when I first got them. Normally they are Krauss rings, or as far as I know, Spek usually uses Krauss rings. Bear with me, I'm just going to have a sip of water. I've been talking to you for too long. Thank you for sticking with me. These are Coloman handler rings, which I've never seen before. They're gold, they're 35mm, but when I first put my stuff in, it didn't go on the rings very easily. I had to line it up very carefully. You would put it onto the top 3 rings, and then it would you'd have to sort of pull the bottom half to make it fit onto the bottom 3 rings, which is quite strange. And I asked on the Spek group on Facebook, and somebody said that they think the gap between the rings might be slightly wider or slightly narrower, I'm not sure which, than the Viola normal sort of distance between the rings, and that sort of makes sense. So I very carefully took a metal file and I filed the top of the right ring and the bottom of the left ring. I'm not suggesting that you do this if you don't know for definite what you're doing and that you won't damage the rings, and I don't suggest you do it unless you've had experience metalworking or woodworking before. And if you do it and you damage it, don't blame me. If you nick these rings, they're more liable to break, so be careful, be very careful. I did it very carefully, and I just where the 2 rings meet, the top of this one, I can't zoom in, my camera won't let me zoom in, hope you can see, and the bottom of this one, they're slightly rough. So on these 2 and on these 2 they were slightly rough, and I filed them down very carefully, and now it turns and fits on lovely, so I don't have to line them up very much. They just slip on, and when I'm moving it, it's much smoother on the rings, and as you heard, it's a very nice snap, so it's much smoother on the rings than it was, so I'm pleased with that now. It's nice to have the gold rings in there. I wouldn't necessarily have picked them myself. I'm not a gold person. When I wear jewellery, I wear silver, but I think that the gold goes very nicely with the brown, and the popper and the press stud, or whatever you call them, the 2 parts of the press stud are gold, so that's a very nice touch. So yes, there we go. Thank you for watching. That is probably an incredibly long video by now. I will show you again how I've set it up, probably when I'm actually at uni, so that I've had some time actually using it and playing with it, setting it up for practical use, because this is kind of practice. It's a few months until I go to university, so I'm counting down the days, but this is gorgeous and I'm going to enjoy using it. And I will let you know my decision over whether I'm going to be bringing it with me every day to uni, or whether I'm going to be taking something that I won't mind getting a bit bashed in my bag. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye!